This episode of the Young Turks brought to you by GoToMeeting, online meetings made easy. New talking point from the Republicans is, well, if we hadn't tortured anybody, obviously we would have never gotten any information or intelligence, and obviously we would have found Bin Laden. So please thank George W. Bush and Dick Cheney for all that lovely torture that they did. Well, a guy who's going to claim that he has facts on that is Peter King. Let's watch that first. Clip one.
Congressman, right off the bat, tell me something I don't know. Tell us something we don't know.
Well, I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but you mentioned the fact that we obtained information several years ago, vital information about the courier for Obama. We obtained that information through waterboarding. And so for those who say that waterboarding doesn't work, to say that it should be stopped and never used again, we got vital information which directly led us to Bin Laden.
Wow.
Also,
wait, let me stop you there. I did not know that, and I'm sure most of my audience did not at all. Explain how that went down. How did we get that information? Where did it come from? Was it Guantanamo Bay?
it came from an overseas prison where Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was being interrogated, and waterboarding was used, and it was during the interrogation of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed through waterboarding that this information was learned.
So KSM gave it up? Mohammed himself gave it up?
KSM gave us the first lead, and then later on, Al-Libi, who also was a top aide to bin Laden, he was also being interrogated with strong interrogation measures, and he confirmed information about the couriers. So key information we got on a very, very vital part.
That is absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. You're not going to hear that on the other networks, I guarantee you.
Yes, you are not going to hear that on other networks because it is not true. Peter King made it up, and I'm going to show you. First, Associated Press says this. In a secret CIA prison in Eastern Europe years ago, Al-Qaeda's number 3 leader, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, gave authorities the nicknames of several of bin Laden's couriers. 4 former U.S. intelligence officials said Mohammed did not reveal the names while being subjected to simulated drowning technique known as waterboarding. That's 4 former intelligence officials who have first-hand knowledge. They also said that he gave it up. In a different Associated Press article, they explained that Mohammed gave up that information under normal interrogation practices months later. Now, people like Peter King would say, oh, no, of course, if you hadn't waterboarded him months and months ago, he would have never given it, except they're drowning the guy. You give up the information when you're being drowned if torture works. Not in the middle of other interrogation many months later that was the exact opposite of waterboarding it. So, totally not true. But if you're not convinced yet, all right, let's give you a senator that sits on the Intelligence Committee, Senator Dianne Feinstein. Clip number 2.
There's been the reporting of the detainees, the information that came from the detainees. What kind of light can you shed on how that process played out? There's been indications that that information was gained by the harsh interrogation program of the CIA. What do you know about that? Was it a product of waterboarding, that kind of process?
We are in the process of a big study on the detention and interrogation of the detainees on the Intelligence Committee. The Republicans have pulled out of the study, so this has been carried out by the Democratic staff, essentially. They have gone through more than 3 million emails, cables, pieces of paper, looking for this. To date, the answer to your question is no. Nothing has been found to indicate that this came out of Guantanamo, and people were questioned, but there were no positive answers as to the identity of this number 1 courier.
No, it did not come from waterboarding. No, it did not come from Guantanamo. Okay, and well, did anything good come of torture? Well, let's go to clip number 3 and find out.
Some of the intelligence came from the Bush-era interrogations. Do you consider this any vindication of those interrogations in the secret prisons?
No, absolutely not. I do not. I happen to know a good deal about how those interrogations were conducted. And in my view, nothing justifies the kind of procedures that were used.
If you know what we did to them, apparently it's a lot worse than we think it is, because the people who've seen it go, oh boy, we should have never done that, okay? And she says it was not from any of that, and the reporter's still like, well, what if the information came from that? But she just told you it didn't. So why are you repeating a Republican talking point? All right, you don't believe her because she's a Democratic senator. How about the head of intelligence, John Brennan? Let's go to him. Clip number 11.
The different details and methods that led up to this moment. And obviously there is word out today that waterboarding played a very big role, or a role, in actually getting the information that was integral in finding bin Laden. Is that the case?
Not to my knowledge. The information that was acquired over the course of 9 years or so came from many different sources, human sources, technical sources, as well as information that detainees provided. And it was something that, as a result of the painstaking work that the analysts did, they pieced it all together. That led us to the Abbottabad compound last year and resulted in the very successful operation on Sunday.
See, this is what drives me crazy. The Republicans put it out there like, well, obviously it was the waterboarding, right? And then the rest of the press just goes with it, and they just say, well, it was the waterboarding, right? And every person they ask goes, no, it wasn't the waterboarding. It wasn't. So I don't know where you're getting that from. I got 4 former intelligence officials so far. We got Senator Feinstein on the Intelligence Committee. You've got the head of intelligence, John Brennan. Still not good enough for you? All right, how about Don Rumsfeld? Let's check out what he has to say.
Of course, Bush administration widely criticized for waterboarding and other aggressive interrogation techniques. Do you think, now that it's all said and done, harsh interview techniques at Gitmo actually helped find bin Laden and contributed to his killing?
Well, first of all, no one was waterboarded at Guantanamo Bay. That's a myth that's been perpetrated around the country by critics. The United States Department of Defense did not do waterboarding for interrogation purposes to anyone.
So how could they have successfully gotten that information they needed from waterboarding if they never did the waterboarding? At least according to Rumsfeld. But you got to pick one. You either did it and it was awesome, or you never did it in the first place. Let's keep it real. They did do waterboarding. Whether it was a Gitmo is an open question. Maybe that's what Rumsfeld's trying to say there. But even Rumsfeld says in that interview, no, we didn't get it from the waterboarding. GoToMeeting.com makes online meetings easy and fast. You can join in by phone or use your computer mic. You can also do presentations online and share your computer so people can see your presentations as you're doing the meeting. And one flat rate gets you as many meetings as you want.
Get a free trial at GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code TURKS.